15, 16-year-old get caught with an MDMA tablet. It goes on their criminal records check. Can't work for the ambulance service. Can't join the police. Can't join the military. All for taking a drug which is fucking less harmful than alcohol.
Oh, fucking hell.
Yeah.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. What the fuck is Naloxone Man doing?
Tell you what it is. You know what it is? All about this bloody George Charlton character. All the time. George this, George that. Oh, did you know he's called Naloxone Man when he's not called Naloxone Man? I'm the Naloxone Man. And he was telling me earlier about coming on the podcast with this guy called Andy Casey, the Coffee and Chaos podcast and all that. And he's always leaving me out. So I thought, bugger him. I'm coming in and I'm going to say hello. Andy, you're beautiful. How are you?
I'm good, Naloxone Man. I'm like, what? Where is George?
Don't even worry about it. Where is George? I'm sick and tired of bloody hearing about George all the time. People often say to the Naloxone Man, you know what? I think it's George wearing that costume. And I go, well, if you'd seen Naloxone Man's legs and his pre-Noxad hands, you would actually know that my legs are far better than George's. Then people tend to say, well, why do we never see George and Naloxone Man together? Well, it's quite simple. George takes the photographs and I'm in the photographs, so we can't be together. But it's that simple, you know. I just wanted to come in and say that I know you're going to have a good time having a conversation with him, but it's really important that you meet the yellow fellow Naloxone Man, that you know that nice people take drugs, and that Naloxone saves lives. I'm sure George will tell you more about it, and I'll see you later on. Andy, Naloxone Man loves you. Your audience, Naloxone Man loves you. Your podcast, mighty. Mwah! Naloxone Man loves you.
Cheers, Naloxone Man.
Right, George, what's your cry out? Naloxone Man's not doing this, boy. I'm telling you, George, he's done.
2 hours later.
Yeah, Naloxone Man, I'm telling you now, right? If you bloody said anything you shouldn't have said, there's going to be bloody hell in a belt with you, man. Honest to God, man, I'm fucking sick of him. Andy, listen, I don't know what to say, man. He found out that I'm coming on your podcast, right? And normally I wouldn't tell him anything about what I'm doing because shit like that happens. He's going mad, why can't I? I said, you're not coming on. So literally, I've dropped the bane off at school. I've came back here. Next thing I know is I come through the door. I can hear him talking to you. Fucking hell on, do you know what I mean? So he's just went out there, right, like that. So I'm sorry, I don't know what the crack was. Don't know what he said to you. I only apologise. It's nice to see you, bro. How are you?
Before we get any further, does Naloxone Man live with you?
No, he's got a key though. Do you know what I mean? Because you see, when I'm away, sees the dogs. You know what I mean? Takes the dogs for a walk and all that from time to time.
Do you know?
It's just, you know what it is? It's one of them, man. He's like, you kind of tell him no because he's even more self-obsessed than I am. Do you know what I mean? So he's very needy, and when opportunities arise, then if he's got a chance, he takes it. Do you know what I mean? So
I've just got this image of him walking down the street with your 2 dogs now.
absolutely telling you, man, the neighbours go mad. There's been complaints put into the housing and everything about him, man. I'm telling you now, he's too much. It's too much.
Oh,
but it's
mate.
nice to see you, man.
Well, it is good to see you, man. And that is a sick t-shirt. I'm loving the colours on that one today, George. Drug users deserve love. I should have worn my Nice People Take Drugs t-shirt.
Well, I seen you were wearing it the other day. It looks really good on you, actually.
I've got a little confession to make.
What?
That's actually an older photo because I don't fit in it anymore because I sort of bulked out a little bit on the chest and it's quite tight on me now. So it sort of says Nice People Take Drugs now.
Have you been to the gym, like?
Been working out, mate. Been working out.
Yeah, good, man. I'm telling you now, eye candy. I always felt like that you were the unstoppable eye candy. You know, when we were part of the body program.
Unstoppable eye candy.
Yeah, until I joined, obviously. Do you know what I mean? And then you take a second place.
I mean, I don't want to start off with anything offensive, George, but you have got pretty bad fucking eyesight. Let's be honest.
Well, absolutely, man. Should have went to Specsavers. Do you know what I mean? But no, do you know what I mean? I've always had a bit of a man crush on you, I think. And
yes,
you're very aesthetically pleasing. Do you know what I mean? Like fucking, you've got the pepper pot look going on. Do you know what I mean?
Pepper pot.
Yeah.
Nice.
Got a nice tonality to your voice. Do you know what I mean?
God, I hope my wife's watching this.
Absolutely, man. Good all round guy you are, mate, brother. Good all round guy. What we doing?
What are we doing, mate? Do you know what? When I messaged you and said, let's get on the podcast together, there was a few reasons for it. One, because it's been a few years, but many people won't know this, but you were the first ever paying client of mine. And I remember doing a masterclass
Yeah.
And it was obviously I knew you from before when we were working with Paul and stuff. And I did my masterclass, and it was all my mates that showed up. So on the call, I said, "Look, guys, this is my first masterclass. A little bit nervous." I said, "But I know none of you guys are probably going to buy from me, and but that's fine." I said, "But would you mind if I just give me the opportunity to just like tell you about my program and tell you what my offer is, just because it'd be great to just practice it." And I told you all, and it was really good. I think there was maybe like 4 of you on the call. And I got off the call. I thought, oh, that felt good. I was a bit disappointed because it was only, my friends that showed up. And then my phone rang. And I picked up the phone and I went, and this, oh, mate, do you know, what do I call your accent?
Fucking awesome.
Awesome.
Geordie.
Is it Geordie? Is it? Right, cool.
Finish your story and then I'll tell you.
Cool, man. So this Geordie chap rings me.
Yeah.
And he's like, all right, George, were you all right? And you went, yeah. He said, oh, mate, loved your masterclass. Yeah, it was really good, man. He was like, can I give you a bit of feedback? And I was like, oh, fucking hell. I was like, this is where I'm going to feel like a twat. And I'm like, and he just basically gave me a bollocking for doubting myself. And then basically said to me, don't you ever do that again. And it was probably, as a coach, probably one of the biggest lessons I've ever had from a business person anyway, or let alone anything else. And I've been in business now for 18 years.
Yeah.
And you were like, because I do want to fucking work with you. And I was like, what? And I don't know if you know this, if I've told you this before, but I got in my car and drove home, and it had been a little bit of a slog beforehand. Look at you, your coffee, chaos, and confidence. Look at that. Boom. Fresh parts.
It's all about the props, matey.
All about the props.
Naloxone Man brought the fucking chaos. And by the end of it, we'll have the confidence, won't we? But go on.
I love that. So I got in the car, I drove home. I rang my wife on the way home, and I went, oh my God, I can't believe it. She went, how did it go? And I went, I'll call you back in a minute. And I just cried for like a mile and a half and was like, why am I crying? And you know what? The thing I love about this, and the reason I'm telling you this story, George, if I haven't already told you this story, but like the listeners and the viewers can hear it, is it was at the time in my life when I realized this is what I want to do. Even though I knew what I was doing, I knew, I never felt that with the photography business. I've never felt that, obviously as a musician, I've always felt like I'm a rock star, but that's never left me. But you know what? When you like find your purpose and your passion in what you're doing and your drive, that was that moment for me. So before we get any further, I just wanted to say, mate, thank you so much for being that person to give me that little like epiphany bridge moment where even though I'd been on a journey for a few years, becoming a coach, doing all my training and everything, all the effort and the work I put in, for me, it was that moment where actually, and I know we're probably going to get onto some of this sort of stuff in a minute, but like, when someone believes in what you do and you get that confirmation, we don't need confirmation. But I tell you what, when you put it out there and it comes back and you're like, oh, wow, I'm on the right path. So yeah, just want to say thank you for that, mate. Let's get that out of the way first, because
totally, man. And you know what it was? It wasn't that you were fucking that good. It was just out of fucking pity that I worked with you.
I thought so. Yeah.
No. Do you know what it is for me, Andy? There's definitely something about kind of like, obviously we spent a little bit of time together doing that the Through Dog event down at the Jurassic Coast, and I kind of felt like naturally I gravitated towards you in some ways. We got a really good selfie. I've been looking for that this morning to post. I couldn't find it actually. I don't know where that was.
I've got it.
I'll have you. Let me say.
And do you know what? Weirdly, that was actually after.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Wow.
Which is really, really weird. It's because I tried to convince you to like me then.
Yeah, no convincing, but definitely I think for me, kind of seeing you do your kind of your initial offer, your webinar-y thing. There was a lot of like humility about you. Do you know what I mean? And I kind of just felt, I don't know, just a natural affinity to you in some ways. And like, I'm a lot of a complicated creature, me. Do you know what I mean? Kind of like, I'm very gregarious and I'm fucking out there, and I've definitely got undiagnosed ADHD, and people probably see me as like somebody with like not a care in the world, and in the most part that's kind of true, you know. But like at that time I was going through some pretty significant changes in my life in terms of like the breakdown in my relationship and kind of just being fucking lost, man. I was really, really lost at that time. Do you know what I mean? And pride can be pride can be a fucking killer, can't it, in some ways, you know? So I wasn't kind of being open and transparent about kind of where I was at, because I wasn't really sure where I was at. I was really scared and frightened of kind of the thought of being on my own and kind of just a bit of a mess, man. So like, it just seemed to me that that the universe put us together in some ways. That might
Yeah, man.
dramatic. I don't care if it fucking does or not. Do you know what I mean? And then we had these like we had these sessions, man, which were just like they were absolutely transformational for me. Do you know what I mean? It was kind of like it was a it was a safe space for me where I felt I could just be fucking like absolutely open, transparent, honest, and I think you kind of created the environments where I didn't have to be that guy, that guy there where I could kind of tap into like tap into the vulnerability. Do you know what I mean? And kind of walk into that. Do you know what I mean? So like whilst I appreciate your thanks, also for me, like fucking a massive huge thanks to you, man, because like you are involved in my life and my journey, and obviously still are, but fucking at that time, in like from a therapeutic point of view, what you did for me was fucking what you helped me to do myself was amazing. Do you know what I mean? And whether that was the talking elements of what we were doing or the guided visualizations in some ways through your NLP work and stuff was just mad, you know. And it's funny to think like that one moment, right? Like that one moment when we were doing some visualization work, and you got me to kind of not be in the moment where I was in my old house, separated from my wife, filled with fucking dread and anxiety, but you got me to kind of think and project ahead, like months, like what does 6 months look like? Like really focus on some images and stuff like that, and then fucking the image that came into us, goosebumps, man. I've got fucking goosebumps thinking about it. Like the image that came in, you know what I'm going to say here, was me in a new house with a new sofa, with me sat on it, and my daughter Madison with her head on my lap. Do you know what I mean? And it was
Yeah.
powerful, man. It gave me tears and stuff like that. And then not too long after, like literally a few months after, I got offered a brand new house, a brand new house, and we had this moment where I decorated it. The settee was downstairs. We were watching From on the telly, and Madison was lying on my lap, and it was like fucking hell, man. Like fucking hell, like just it's testament to you that, Andy. Do you know what I mean? Like fucking and people might just see it as like a bit of coaching or a bit of fucking NLP or something like that. But it's not, you know, it's like it was the most significant leap I've ever took in my life in 20 years. Do you know what I
Wow,
mean?
man.
And
Wow.
and where I am now in me in me bit room, them coats, I should really move them coats. It brings a fucking look, but like I've got this
But let's not spoil the illusion. You're in England. It fucking rains.
in the northeast of England and never stops. But then, you know, like I've got this beautiful house. Like I've got Madison's room there next door. She's pretty much with me, like she's with me 2 or 3 weeks a month. Do you know what I mean? She's happy. She's content. We've got a lovely garden out there for the dogs to shit in. No, like it's
I mean, you got a brand new house, mate. I think I hate to say this, but you need to change the locks and get the Naloxone Man's key back.
Nice for the family, man. Like the dogs came with me as well, so the dogs didn't stay down with my ex. They came with me. I've got beautiful neighbors either side of me. I'm kind of like, I just feel more settled than I've been in such a long time. And it kind of started with getting on a fucking call with a guy who had 4 people on his webinar. Do you know what I mean?
You've just said something there to me and I remember asking you, like, hey George, could I use this for for a testimonial for my website, and you did the Gala Spinner from Rhodes. Whatever you fucking did, it was hilarious. It made me laugh. And I've got a friend of mine who's watched that, and whenever he sees like something where like you've commented, or if I speak to him on the phone, he'll always do that voice to me on the phone, which is really funny because I just think it's the way, you know, people are influenced by the situations. There's a word that you just said there that really struck out with me, and I hadn't realized it now, but you just said it as well. Settled.
Yeah, man.
And I think that's really powerful.
But and like, you know, like getting goosebumps, man. It's like fucking, like, I don't really do settled in terms of a state. Do you know what I mean? My natural state is like undiagnosed ADHD, mad as a fucking ship's cat, but love it. Do you know what I mean? That this is kind of like that. I'm not kind of so paralyzed through neurodivergence, if you like, that I kind of get shit done. Do you know what I mean? I'm kind of like on the cusp of like things can get a bit overwhelming sometimes, but actually like ADHD in some ways, if I was to be diagnosed, that would be my fucking superpower, definitely. However, this settled element is a new side of me, which I'm like learning to get to know. Do you know what I mean? Like, really, like, really loving getting to know that. Like, you know, again, it kind of comes back. It's like, obviously, like, for me, it's like, I have to do a lot of the work on the fucking inside. Do you know what I mean? Right? Like that's where the work lies for me, right? And like external factors obviously can play a role, but like both me and Kerry needed a new start. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
like the through manifestation and fucking through those guided visualizations and kind of placing my attention on the things that I wanted to happen, then I ended up like here and had a day like a couple of weeks ago where I had the back door open, which leads out into a nice little grassed garden. I was listening to who was I listening to? I bought myself a little record player because I've never owned a record player before. Do you know what I mean? So I bought a record player. I'm a fucking 100 years old on now. What's it called? It's on a record player. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then like
Gramophone. You mean a gramophone,
man. Yeah. So then I've got fucking wind the thing up like that. So then the dogs were kind of lying at the back door, and the sun was belting in, and I was busy making some tea for Madison before I go and pick her up from fucking school. The Carpenters, that's who I was listening to. And I just had a moment, man, where I was like, fucking hell, man. Like, this is really, really good. Like, nothing hugely significant going on. Do you know what I mean? Like, not fucking like racing around like Naloxone Man, just like absolutely like settled and fucking content. And like that means so much, man, because like my life's been a roller coaster, like all the way, and it probably will be right at the fucking very end, as will everybody else's. Do you know what I mean? But like for me, having some security and some comfort and some stability and a place where I can just be a good dad for fucking Maddie and for Charlotte and be a good dad for the dogs. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's really important. But if you'd asked us, if you'd said to me during, I suppose you did say it in some ways, but if you'd said to us when we were having our sessions that this thing's definitely going to fucking happen for you, I would have said, no, it's not going to happen for me and you're absolutely fucking mad. But I definitely think it's kind of like, isn't it fucking Henry Ford who says whether you think you can or you can't, you're right? And I definitely think for me that you instilled that that mentality that I can and I will, and I just need to believe in myself and things will be all right. You know what I mean? And here we are. Things are all right, man.
Absolutely love that, George. And again, thank you, because even you just telling your story then, you know, it puts it into perspective for me of like, you know, I totally believe that what I do is just help you uncover the pathway. I quite often liken myself to a guide at like an old house. So I'll take you through the experience and show you the way, and like, you know, we'll go and like, I'll open the door, and then you get to like explore the museum. Do you know what I mean? And I think there's so many kind of, I don't know. I absolutely, I love working with people when I can see that they didn't realize what was possible, and
Yeah.
that's the thing that is probably the biggest thing for me.
But then also, I suppose it's about like, because you won't see it like this. Do you know what I mean? Like the absolute, like the integral role that you play in people's transformations. Do you know what I mean? And I kind of think we can talk about people's transformations as just a set of words. But when you actually think about like what those words mean for the people who you support, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like for me, my life has transformed 100% since we did that thing. I'm in a physically different place, a psychologically different place. Like emotionally, I feel absolutely content. I feel fucking empowered, energized, like fucking safe, secure. Like, and yeah, you said it. You open the door and we walk through it and all that. But, but you play an integral role in that. Do you know what I
Mm.
mean? In people's life transformations, and I think like we kind of underestimate the importance of fucking like the work that you do and other people like you do as well. Do you know what I mean? Because like for many, it might just be getting a handle on some small stuff. Do you know what I mean? And kind of like helping them to kind of find their place in the world and stuff like that. But for me, there was nothing small about the work that we did together and the fucking the safe space and the environments that you created in order for me to be able to fucking like to be really vulnerable and tell you some stuff that I've never told fucking anybody. Do you know what I mean? And that's testament to you. And that to me is a little bit more than just about coaching, brother. It speaks volumes about who you are as a person, as a professional. Like you're a fucking you exude those Rogerian core conditions. Do you know what I mean? Carl Rogers talks about fucking the relationship being the therapy. Do you know what I mean? Like you do bring all of these wonderful skills as your in your NLP master practitioner role, darling. But it's the real relationship that you create that enables people like me to dip our toe in the water and then fucking dive in, man. Because you know what? I reckon, in some ways, had I not have dived on that webinar and then had another phone you up and said, like, can I send you some money and can you do some work with me? I think I'd still be back up there and I'd still be, Kerry and I would still be struggling and we wouldn't, either of us wouldn't have took that leap that we needed to take, which makes us probably better people and better parents. Do you know what I mean? So it's
And
fucking,
I love it as well, George, because I think that, the way you show gratitude for everyone else around you as well in that situation. Because like you just said, you're grateful. You said this to me before, that you're grateful for having this opportunity like that you have now got. You're grateful for what the opportunity you had with your ex-partner. Like
yeah, man.
we talked a lot just then about transformation, and I know someone who helps people transform lives. And he is phenomenal, and that's Naloxone Man. So you know him pretty well. But dude, let's talk about the shit you do, because we talk about transforming lives. Fucking hell, man. I see the faces of the people that you interview on your LinkedIn and your Instagram, and helping people is what you do. I mean, is that what do you call it, what you do? Because, mate,
Legendary dynamism, fucking, what do I do? I just try and be me fucking authentic self and be an advocate for the underdog. I'm definitely an advocate for the underdog. So like anybody who's like in society, being written off, part of an underclass, then they're kind of my people. And definitely the demographic of those people is people who use drugs, people impacted by addiction, people who use drugs recreationally, parents and carers and family members who've got a significant other who's impacted by addiction. So definitely those lads, lasses are my people, and then supporting organizations and commissioners and the NHS to be able to work more effectively with those people is kind of like what I do for a living. So I kind of do a coaching role, like in a technical support role, to help organizations to become more user focused in their services and their interventions, to make sure that those organizations are building services and interventions which are based on the needs of the people who use the services rather than just fucking guessing at what it is that people want. I suppose with the lads and lasses that I get the privilege to work with, like nationally, like fucking hell, man. Like for me, it's about kind of planting seeds in their world that like that using drugs are not that fucking awesome. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
They're already awesome, right? And
Yeah.
that kind of like they can go on and do like absolutely wonderful things, whether they decide to work towards recovery and subscribe to abstinence or whether or not they continue to use drugs, they can still do absolutely amazing things. So that's kind of manifested itself in developing like user-led projects across the whole of the UK, where I'll train people who use drugs and people with lived and living experience, firstly around a drug called Naloxone. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit, to go out into the community and train and supply Naloxone to other people, but then also to just kind of be offering like what we call peer-led services. So people who've got direct experiences of addiction going out into the community and offering mentoring, coaching and support for other people in the community who are using drugs. And it's fucking beautiful, man. I'm telling you now, it's like, it's just beautiful work. It's really, really beautiful work. And to be involved in people's transformations. Do you know what I mean? Like you, brother. It's like it's I'm like a walking fucking quote book, me. But one of my favorite quotes is find a job that you love and you'll never work a day in your life. Do you know what I mean? And that's absolutely how I feel about the work that I do. It's not work. Do you know what I mean? It's not fucking work, man. It's just it's mint, because I get to be the joker. I get to be fucking a bit crazy. I get to energize people. I get to use my wisdom of working in this arena for over the last 2 decades to help organizations to realize that like that when we work with people who use drugs, to develop really great services, that like the sky doesn't fall in. Do you know what I mean? And that your handbags don't get nicked out of your offices, and they're not stealing all the coffee, and they won't be robbing the petty cash, and
Yeah.
they're not going to spend all their money on drugs. And if they do, so fucking what? What's it got to do with you? Do you know what I mean? Like, I kind of work with providers to help them realize that we can just do really, really brilliant things to help and support people who use drugs. And that's it. That's kind of what I'm up to. That's like one element of what I'm up to. I do work with cops across the UK. I train police officers to be trauma informed and ACE aware, adverse childhood experiences aware. I do a lot of stuff in schools with drugs education, teaching young people to just say no. But you know, remember Grange Hill? I don't know if you're old enough.
Just say no. Yeah.
That whole that had Danny Kendall and Zamo,
Lamo. Yeah.
Zamo had a dig in the toilets, and the last shot of the scene was Zamo lying like that, having an overdose. And the UK went wild. That was terrible. You can't be showing that. And then they came up with this Grange Hill song, which was just say no, no. Right? And this has been the narrative that we've pushed on young people for fucking ever. Just say no to drugs, and if you use drugs, you're gonna die. And this is like, and it's bullshit.
Mhm.
The kids think like fucking us adults have got an agenda. So I'll go in and go, oh, I'll tell you what it is. If you use drugs, you're gonna die. They're sitting straight away going, this guy is absolutely full of shit, because I've got mates who are using drugs, or I'm using drugs, and I'm not fucking dying. So not listen to him anymore, because that whole agenda is about trying to get kids not to take drugs. And I think the safest way for anyone to take drugs is not to take them. However, they always are, and young people do. Do you know
Yeah.
1.3 million young people using a legal drug last year? Do you know what I mean?
How
So, like,
many?
1.3 million.
Wow.
Yeah. So like fucking so what we know is that, like, again, when I'm doing these inputs, and Andy, you're gonna have to rule with an iron fist, right? Because this is me when I'm not using cocaine, right? So fuck knows what I'm like when I'm using it, right? So like, if you need to fucking get in there, you need to tell us to shut me. Okay. So right. So like, so when I do these drugs education sessions in schools with kids, like I maybe do a whole year group, so there may be 500 kids, right? And I'll say, right, got a question for you. So if you're thinking about using drugs, would you tell your teachers, or would you ask them for advice? And they go, no, you're mad. And I go, why not? They go, well, because you're going to get in the shit. Do you know what I mean? They're going to tell me mum and dad or social services or something like that, right? I go, all right. Would you tell your parents that you were thinking about taking drugs? Or would you ask them for advice? To go, mate, we think you're still taking fucking drugs because you're mad if you think we're going to ask our fucking parents about him. And I go, well, why wouldn't you ask them? I go, because we're going to get wrong and we're going to get in the shit. So then that kind of leaves the question, if young people can't talk to teachers or schools about drug use because they're going to get in the shit, and they will, and a lot of universities actually for older, younger people, if you like, right? Like a lot of universities have got a zero tolerance approach. So if they find out you're using drugs, you're kicked out your course. It's that simple.
The fact that they're probably taking drugs because of the fucking pressure of university.
But equally, they'll also be taking drugs because they're nice. So let's not just let's cut through that bullshit straight away.
Absolutely, yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
people aren't taking drugs because they're not nice. They're taking
No.
drugs because they are. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah.
So then for young people at schools, they can't talk to the teachers. And then they can't talk to the parents because the natural inclination, oh, Di, all right, I'm thinking about necking some MDMA. We'll fucking lose that shit. The vast majority of parents would be worried and they'd lose their fucking shit. So really what we do is we don't create spaces or environments for young people to have information, advice and guidance around drugs, and we tell them it's just say no, and if you use it, you'll die. So kids start to get that information, advice and guidance from each other. Do you know what I mean? And like, they don't know. Do you know what I mean? They don't know the safest way to be kind of using MDMA. They don't know about kind of safety plans and strategies. They don't know about some of the long-term harms that can come from using different substances and how to mitigate some of those things.
I never thought this was going to be a segue, George, but you make them curious, right?
And create an environment for them to be honest.
And do you know who else makes people curious? Curious George, who also carries a fucking yellow banana like you do.
I'm telling you now, man. I'm telling you now, what the fuck? Well, you can't have that. Don't have that as your thumbnail, Curious George, by the way.
No way, because I'll end up with loads of monkeys on there.
A bit of bananagy. So for me, when I'm doing this stuff with kids in schools, excuse me, I'm definitely using that line. The safest way for you to take drugs is not to take them.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's true. Do you know what I mean? However, there's people in this room who are thinking about using substances, maybe already are using substances. So let's talk about the substances which are like really prevalent for young people to use. Let's talk about kind of how you use them, like what to do if things go wrong, how can you minimize some harm? Do you know what I mean? And like, so we'll do these really good sessions in schools, and then 500 kids will get up and they'll be dismissed. And you can guarantee that like 495 people will walk straight out. And then you'll be left with 5 kids who'll be like walking around the corners of the hall, like looking at posters on walls and things. Not my posters, just looking generally at posters. And you know for a fact that those 5 kids who are wandering around, they've got some extra questions. And probably
Of course.
they're the kids who know somebody who's using drugs,
Yeah.
or the drugs themselves. All right, lads. All right, lasses, come over. And the last one I did, there was 3 lasses who came over, probably about 15 years old. I was like, all right, it was a really good presentation. Really enjoyed it. I went, what's the crack then? What's happening? Oh, well, we use a little bit of MDMA. And I'm like, fucking great stuff, man. Thanks for your honesty. Do you know what I mean? Thank you for fucking feeling that you can be honest. What's the crack? How much it cost? What's the scan? How much it costs? Do you know what I mean? But like, then all of a sudden you've got 3 15-year-old lasses who've never spoke to an adult in their life about their drug use, now talking about how much the pills cost, where they're getting them from, how they're using them. Do you know what I mean? Like, what are they going to do if things go fucking wrong? Do you know, like, introduce the idea of like, saying if you are going to use, don't use alone. With the potency of MDMA, don't take a full pill, start with a quarter, because you can always put more in. You can't take it out once it's in. Start low, go slow. Do you know what I mean?
Low, go slow.
Like fucking drink plenty of water, but don't drink copious amounts of water, and make sure you just stay with each other. Do you know what I mean? So like, you get into this place where you're having really positive conversations around substance use with young people. Do you know what I mean? So like, so my work is just, it's very eclectic. Do a lot of work in prisons, speaking to the lads in the prison estates and stuff. And
how do you overcome that then? Because we are a nation of old-fashioned ways, and do you ever come across any hurdles with schools or organizations where they're like, you can't tell them it's okay to take drugs?
yeah, well, there's that great word, isn't it, which is epistemology, right? And like, epistemology is concerned with, well, how do we know phenomenology? It's concerned with how do we know what we know. So I think we go, well, you can't tell young people about taking drugs like that. And you go, well, how do you know what you know? Well, it's because it's, and then people don't know. We just have this whole rehearsed material about why we can and can't say things, or we might be saying things like, kind of like, you're going to have somebody who's using drugs going out into the community and training and supplying naloxone, and like, we can't have people who use drugs doing this. They have to be 6 months clean or sober in order to be able to do these projects. And I'll go, that's fucking interesting, because your staff are getting pissed out their heads on a weekend and they're on the fucking payroll. So how is it okay for your staff to have a £35,000 salary and support somebody who's got a drug or an alcohol problem, but yet somebody who wants to involve and participate and get involved and volunteer, and they need to be 6 months clean or sober? So like I typically call people out on that stuff. Do you know what I mean? Because like if we always do what we've always done, we'll always get what we've always got. Do you know what I mean? Right. And unless there's a shift in people's thinking and mentality, I'm not condoning drug use at all. Do you know what I mean? I'm definitely an advocate for people who use drugs and people's bodily autonomy. I think if somebody wants to be able to take a substance, it's up to them what to do and put into their body. As long as they're not causing harm to others, then
If you were to look at this on in a completely different level, and we were to say, I don't know why rock climbers just came into my head, right? But we were to look at rock climbers and we say, like, you learn to tie the knots because of what you want to keep yourself safe. You go out, people who are going on hiking trips and stuff like that, they do things like make sure they take a first aid kit. All you're doing is giving them a first aid kit and teaching them to tie the knot, right?
yeah.
We're not saying don't fucking rock climb, because you could fall down.
But why aren't we saying that? Hang on a minute. But why aren't we saying that? Right?
Exactly.
Why aren't we? So I noticed yesterday that the first climber of this year in Mount Everest died yesterday. That was on the news, right?
Oh shit.
He died on Everest, right? So every year at the end of the season, the Sherpas have to climb up Everest and they bring the bodies down. Do you know what I mean? Like people die on Everest every single year, right? Like thousands of people die in car crashes every single year. People die of smoking cigarettes every single year. Like people die from parachute jumps, not that many actually. Do you know what I mean? Right? People die. Why aren't we banning these dangerous activities? Why aren't we doing that? Do you know, like more people die from road traffic accidents, right, than potentially like deaths from ecstasy. So why is ecstasy illegal, which kills around 72 people a year, right? Why is that illegal, but driving a fucking car isn't?
Do you know, when you just said 72 people a year, I've got to be honest, that number didn't sound like a lot to me. And then you put that into comparison.
Too many. It's
still too many, but it still doesn't sound a lot when you compare to, I can think of at least 10 news stories, or stories that I've heard this year of people dying in my local area in car crashes. Do you know what I mean? So
absolutely. But I think the thing is this, right? So I think we have this kind of like, we have this rhetoric, which we've been conditioned to think about drugs and people who use them. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, it was kind of like grounded in the war on drugs, which is kind of like 52 years old. Do you know what I mean? It was kind of born in the United States, actually, about kind of the prohibition of kind of alcohol, then illegal drugs. Do you know what I mean? And then kind of what we've done is we've vilified and demonized people who use drugs, and kind of we've got everyone to think that like that alcohol is this life-giving social lubricant, right? That fucking, and that anything else that isn't that psychoactive is fucking extremely dangerous and illegal. So we're gonna kind of criminalize people who use those substances. And I think it's crazy, man. Like, I suppose part of what I feel obligated to do is to kind of be the carrier of truth and information, and kind of get in environments where I can be open and honest and potentially start to change some of that narrative, So like, we know the way that people talk about people who use drugs, like zombies on our street. Like when I do this, I've got this presentation I do, and it's got kind of like 5 recent newspaper articles from national papers, and one of them says, "What's the point in just locking up these junkies?" And that's the headline in the Independent. One was in the Sun saying, "Jailed mum, mum jailed for tying up her junkie daughter." Do you know what I mean? Like another one saying, and they had a picture of the daughter. Another one says, "A junkie actor dies," and then it's got a picture of this actor holding the hands of his 2 daughters, like in the mail. Do you know what I mean? Like Britain turning in Newcastle being turned into a zombie nightmare in the local paper. And you look at that and I think, fucking hell, that's hate speech. That
of course it is.
Starting point, that's hate speech. So if that was written about any other demographic in our community, LGBTQ plus community, Black minority ethnic communities, do you know what I mean? Like any people with disabilities, people with kind of like protective factors, like protective characteristics wrapped around them, they wouldn't be allowed to write that. They'd be fucking hauled over the coals for that, right? But when it's drug users, right? When it's drug users, then they're easy fucking targets. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and that for me, like, every one of those headlines is like, it's written about somebody's son, somebody's daughter, somebody's husband, somebody's wife, somebody's loved one, somebody's like, all of these people who are impacted by addiction, right, are fucking somebody, and the press writes all of this shit. But then what we don't hear, like drug-related deaths are high in the UK. I think the figures are always a year behind. So it's like 2023, 24 figures were they're 5,448 drug-related deaths, right? So if you look at
Wow.
all illegal drugs, right, like you've got 5,448, right? That represents probably about 21 deaths a day. Do you know what I mean? Drug-related deaths. So
Wow.
like we're doing a podcast today. By the time we put our head on the pillar, 21 people have died across England, Wales, Scotland, and Ireland. 21 people died yesterday. 21 people died tomorrow. The numbers will go up. You know, the numbers that are recorded now, those numbers are the highest recorded numbers we've ever had since we started recording figures back in 1993. So the numbers never go down. Drug-related deaths never go down; they only go up. In the northeast of England, where I'm from, we've got another record that nobody wants, which is we've had the highest rate of drug-related deaths 10 consecutive years in a row. Right. So what that tells me is like we're doing something fucking seriously wrong here. We can kind
Yeah.
of, well, they need to stop taking drugs. If they stop taking drugs, they'll stop dying. The reality is people want to take drugs. People want
Yep.
to take them, and they're going to
Yep.
keep taking them. Do you know what I mean? But what we do as a government is we just keep our fucking heads down and punish and criminalise, and we hope, you know what I mean? Boris Johnson once said, we're never going to be able to do anything off it because it's a two-headed snake. Like you cut one head off and it'll just grow another, right? But the mad part is, right, we get all of that bullshit and that narrative about and those horrible labels around people who use drugs, right? And then you hear people, I've had to call fucking people out, man. I call people out on it. If I hear you talking about junkies and all that, for me, you're getting fucking called out, man. Like, I'm no hard man. I'm a bit of a coward, actually, but I'm not going to fucking stand by and watch people use that narrative. And typically,
Yeah.
people who do speak like that in that deflammatory way around people who use drugs do so with a fucking pint of like, see, what is it? I wrote it down because I keep fucking forgetting it. Here's a look, where is it? With a pint of, where is it? C2H 5OH, right? So that's what they've got a pint of C2H 5OH or a glass of C2H 5OH. Go, these fucking junkies, fucking scum of the earth and all that. And they're drinking the most fucking dangerous drug of all, which is fucking alcohol. And alcohol kills more people every year than all illegal drugs combined. So take heroin, crack, MDMA, ketamine, mushrooms, psilocybin, nitazines, xylazines, all of the fucking legal drugs, cannabis, you cluster all those deaths together, and it's still not even half the amount of deaths compared to this life-giving social lubricant called alcohol. Which
Yeah.
Diageo have done this great marketing job, but you know what I mean? The fucking global drink industry invests billions to get us all thinking that like this drug that we're consuming is like it's really good for us, but it's not. Causes kidney failure, cancers, fucking millions and millions of things. Dangerous as fuck.
Well, my dad had a liver transplant.
There you go, brother. Do you know what I mean? Like, and you know what? And like 10,500 people died from alcohol-specific deaths. Do you know what I mean? That was linked to problematic alcohol use, but yet that's legal.
Uh-huh.
You can get it in pubs. They go, oh, we don't want any drug consumption rooms. You can't possibly have them. But we've got them fucking everywhere. They're called pubs. And there's people in them having a good time. And that's mint, because I'm pro people having alcohol. But you've got a number of people in these pubs or in houses with closed doors who aren't having a good time. And what we don't do is we don't ban alcohol. What we do is we tell people how to use it safely. We labelize it. We regulate it. We make sure it's not toxic and fucking poisonous. Well, it is toxic and poisonous, ironically.
Yeah.
The level of safeguarding and harm reduction wrapped around it. However, if you're an MDMA user and you're 73 deaths, then you're taking a Class A drug, and if we'll catch you with it, chances are, well, you're probably not going to go to prison, but we are going to criminalize you. Do you know what I mean? And we're going to and that's going to then, for young people, come back to young people, 15, 16-year-old, get caught with an MDMA tablet, it goes on their criminal records check, can't work for the ambulance service, can't join the police, can't join the military, all for taking a drug which is fucking less harmful than alcohol. less harmful. Do you know what I mean? And a lot of
Oh man, you know what? When you put it like that, that just makes you realize, doesn't it? Like that the system's fucked, isn't it?
but and you know what, brother, man, it's fucking like it is really, really like I am so like you know we have to make the reference to alcohol. You know, like kind of if alcohol was to come to market now for the first time, right? It wouldn't
Mhm.
get past the Food Standards Agency. Do you know
No.
what I mean? Right? It would be a Class A drug because of the harms it causes to the individual and the harms that it causes to society. Do you know what I mean? Right? Now, that's not to suggest that everyone who uses alcohol's got a fucking problem with it, because lots of people haven't. But equally, we need to extend that same courtesy to fucking people who use drugs, right? So, like, drug use does not imply drug addiction, regardless of what the papers tell you,
Yeah,
right?
true.
So, like, so what we know is that, like, again, there's around 3.2 million people who used an illegal drug last year in the UK, adults, right? 3.2 million. It's kind of like, I'm sure it's something like kind of was it 11% of the UK population? 1 in every 9 adults used an illegal drug last year. Now we don't have 3.
I was just thinking, I guarantee I know someone who probably takes illegal drugs, but I also guarantee I know someone who takes them almost all the time.
Yeah, man. But you're talking to somebody who takes an illegal drug
Yeah, exactly,
right
man.
now.
Yeah,
Do you know what I
yeah.
mean? Like
Yeah,
you talk to somebody who does that, and again, like I'm not saying that for sensationalist reasons. I'm saying that because like we need people who are professionals, people who are who are academics. We need people who are parents to have the courage to say, "This is who I am. This is what I do. Doesn't make me a bad person."
Mhm.
Do you know what I mean? It doesn't mean I'm a safeguarding risk. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't mean any of these things, right? It just means that I use a substance which is one is illegal. I get that's fucking problematic, right? But like the laws aren't grounded in evidence and science. Do you know what I
Mhm.
mean? It's the
Yeah.
word alcohol. But then I just feel like so for me, I don't have an issue with the substances that I use, right? And just like out of that 3.2 million people, we don't have those 3.2 million people who used an illegal drug last year racing towards drug and alcohol treatment and support services because they don't need treatment and support. They don't need it. Do you know what I mean?
So, yeah.
Like, are they at risk? 100%. What are the reasons they're at risk for? Well, one, because the drug supply is in the hands of organized crime gangs and cartels, and there's no fucking quality control, and they're concerned with money. Do you know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Right? There's no regulation in terms of the substance. So you might buy MDMA one day, which might be 120 milligrams in a tablet, and then you might buy it a week later, and it's got 400 milligrams. But the tablets look fucking very similar. The potent
Yeah.
completely different. There's no quality control, and we're not creating environments where people can learn. Well, we are actually. There's a lot of people like me, harm reductionists, who are around doing that thing.
Yeah,
That's the thing. But like we need to kind of so they're at risk because of quality control because it's in the hands of the organized crime gangs. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot of what we would call like contamination around in the drug supply at the moment. There's a lot of imposter drugs which are around. So that's kind of like somebody who's buying MDMA, like which is ecstasy, except it's not MDMA. It's a different substance which is called PMMA, which is a lot more powerful and it takes a lot longer to ingest into your system and come on. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a lot of like unknowns around the drug supply, which makes it unsafe. Then also, because of the Misuse of Drugs Act 1971, you're also standing a chance of being criminalised for having these drugs. Do you know what I mean? So we're
Yeah.
not saying for one moment that using drugs isn't dangerous. It is, but just like you said, climbing fucking mountains is, driving fast cars is, being on a bloody skateboard is. It'd be interesting to see how many people have fucking hurt themselves on a skateboard. Do you know what I mean? Because there'll be hundreds of people who've hurt
Well,
themselves.
weirdly, when I was a kid, I used to skateboard quite a lot, and I bought the T-shirt that said "Skateboarding is not a crime" for that same reason as nice people take drugs.
Yo, of course, man.
Because we were getting like back then, it would be like, I know people that have had skateboards taken away from them from the police because they were skating on a bench. It's like, well, don't make the bench so fucking shiny, and we'd be all right.
But you know what it is? But then what they've done is the councils everywhere have started putting these big metal nipples on walls and benches. Have you seen them? Like, so like
Yeah.
people are going to do a grind, they can no longer do that. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean? Right? So
yeah.
it's not, but then arguably, it gets like really ugly, man, right? Because if we link that trying to stop skateboarders from being in city centers and skateboarding, because people will be like, oh, down on skateboarders. So what we'll do is we'll put these little rivets every 12 inches into brick walls, right? Because then if a person tries to do a grind, flipping your skateboard up and skating along, you can't do it anymore. But we're also doing something really sinister like that in city centres with regards to homeless populations and homeless populations who use drugs. So, for instance, those like you might have like a park bench, for instance, and open your eyes to it, man, because you'll start to see it if your audience look, right. You might have a park bench which was like 6 foot in width or something, in length. Sorry. They've started to put in the middle of it. They've started to put into that arm thing over the
So
middle.
you can't sleep on there.
So you can't fucking sleep on there. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not addressing the problem. It's being fucking cruel, mate. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now for me, obviously, I'm a harm reductionist. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm a psychonaut at the end of the day. Like, I'm really interested in drugs and drug culture and and I have been forever. You know what I mean? Like, since the 80s and going to the raves and stuff. You know, it's always been like a bit of dance music's fucking still in my life in a big way. A bit of MCing and that. I'm not. You know what I mean? Like, I've never lost that. But when it comes to kind of the cohort of people who use drugs, so back to that 3.2 million, the United Nations Office of Drugs and Crime, what they reckon is that around 10 or 15% of people who use drugs globally, right, not just in the UK, globally, that cohort of people are typically using substances to medicate adverse childhood experiences and trauma, right? They're using drugs not for fun. They're using drugs to medicate childhood sexual abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse, being in war-torn countries, having their fucking homes blown up. Do you know what I mean? Having parents murdered. Do you know what I'm saying, brother? Right? So
Yeah.
there's this narrative around we've got to be tough on people who use drugs, right? We've got to show them tough love. Well, fucking tough love is not love, man.
No.
Love
Yeah.
it. And for that cohort there, those people who are experiencing pain and trauma and adverse childhood experiences, like, they're my fucking people. Like, they're the people I'm going to go above and beyond and do everything I can to make them feel like fucking they're the most fucking important people in this world, you know, because like everybody will walk past people on every high street up and down the country and see people begging and look down on them with disdain and they should just get a fucking job. And you know what I mean? Everyone thinks like that. Not everyone. That's a sweeping statement. Lots of people think like that. Until that person who sat in the street becomes your son, until that person who's using heroin becomes your daughter, until that person who's broken becomes your husband who can't stop drinking, then your fucking views of hatred change in a fucking instant then. Do you know what I mean? Because it's the people who you love who are being hurt. Do you know what I'm saying? And I think, like, for me, like, kindness and compassion and love and warmth and empathy and support, like, for the underdog, man, it's so important, man. It's so
I've had a couple of situations in my life when I've seen a couple of things that I didn't like. One particular one was I'm going to tell you about the three of them really quickly. One particular one is my daughter was singing in the choir at Exeter Cathedral, and it was around Christmas time. And it was like the first time really, you know, walking through Exeter City Centre at like 10:30 at night. It was pretty fucking full on. I'm not going to lie. There were people partying. There were, you know, we walked past two guys having a fight. My daughter at the time was about 8 or 9, and she's like, "Dad, stop them." I'm like, you know, you go into dad mode and you're like, this is not the right time. Anyway, we got further down the road. Because we'd gone for some food before she'd gone and done the singing, and there was this guy asleep on the side, and he was in the sleeping bag and he was just lying there, and he wasn't asleep. Actually, he was sat up, and my daughter said to me, she went, "Daddy, why that man got a sleeping bag?" And I said, "Well, you know, some people live on the street for various different reasons. Some people live on the street because they prefer to live out here. You know, they want to be, you know, some people have troubles, and my daughter talks a lot about troubles as well. And so, anyway, it was fine. We went to the cathedral, we came back, and as we came back, there was a girl going, leave him alone, leave him alone. And this guy was like, no, why is he fucking sleeping there? And he was kicking him. And my daughter said, Daddy, stop him. And I went, mate, leave him the fuck alone. And he went, what are you going to do about it? I went, I won't, but she fucking will. And I pointed to my daughter. And the girl grabbed him and they walked off. And I thought at the time, oh, fucking hell, I felt like I proper put my cape on then. Because I didn't like it. I didn't like seeing him do that, but I didn't like that she saw it. That's the bit that upset me more. Anyway, April this year, I went to, I was doing a talk for Ash Healy at his event in Bridgewater. And as I walked out, after we'd done the talk, we went off, got some coffee. There was a guy, similar kind of situation, guy lying there, fast asleep. And I walked past, I thought, oh, he seems happy. You know, he'd lying, he's fast asleep. He's outside the pub. Anyway, when I came back out, we came out from the coffee, there's a paramedic working on this guy. And I was like, my gut went, oh shit, I should have fucking seen if he was all right. Like I felt a bit guilt. Yeah. Anyway, he was like conscious and they were with him anyway. So I thought he's in the right place. Anyway, a week ago, I took my daughter weirdly to choir. It's a rock choir, just to want to point that out. Way cooler. And as we're going down, there's like 6 police cars and there's a guy lying on the floor. And there's an area in my local town where, you know, where the drug users sit on the bench. Do you know what they tried to do? They tried to take away the bench. They tried to take away all the benches. And it was like, well, why are you taking away the benches? At least, you know, without being rude, you know where they all are. Yeah. Now, when you take away all the benches, all you've done is you've moved, you know, I don't want to say move the problem, but move where they are. And now we don't know where they are. So if there is a problem, so anyway, this guy's lying there on the floor. And my daughter said, oh, Daddy, get out and help him. And I was like, he's got the police with him, darling. He's okay. He's safe. Yeah. And anyway, as soon as we came out of choir, she said, do you know if that man's okay? Yeah. And I think one thing we've got to do, and I think this is something that I know you're instilling in your kids, we've got to tell kids from an early age, not what's right and wrong, but like what's okay.
And the truth.
The truth, exactly that. And I'll tell you about the last one. About a year ago, we were walking through my local town, which is about 10 miles away. And I want to ask you this question because I want to know the answer, what you think. And there was a guy there sitting there. I don't like the word begging because I don't feel like it's begging. I feel like it's asking for resources. Right. Yeah. And this guy sat there. Anyway, this lady has taken him a sandwich and a cake, and she's actually bought him something for his dog. And my daughter said, "Oh," she goes, that's really, really, really nice, Daddy." She goes, "Because I don't think you're supposed to give them money." And I said, "Oh, right." I said, "Oh, why can't you give them money?" She said, "Because I buy drugs."
Oh, what?
And I said, "But what if they do buy drugs?" And she said, "Well, yeah, but then they could die." So, like, spinning that round to you, George, because obviously this is a couple of situations where in my mind, I've got to get the right message across to my daughter. And I remember at the time, and I know we'd spoke about this a little bit before, so there was a little bit of you instilled in me at this time. That's what she said. Well, that's what he said because it's you. And she basically, what would you say to that? Then it's like, you know, oh, don't give them money, like, because that's what they're educating the kids. Don't give them money.
Yeah, but firstly, we're making the assumption that what they're going to do is automatically buy drugs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you know, kind of people, you know, a lot of people who maybe like ask for something, they'll say, can you get us a cup of tea? Can you get us a fucking sandwich? They're hungry.
Yeah,
yeah.
They're
hungry. They're thirsty. They might be smoking fucking tobacco. Do you know what I mean? There's other things. Like, of course, like, for people who are addicted to drugs, then potentially they are going to go and use drugs. But then none of those people intentionally want to die. I think the thing for me, right, it's about just examining your conscience at the end of the day. For some people, if they're not comfortable giving money, fair enough, man. Do you know what I mean? Like, by all means, get people some food, and I think they're going to be grateful for that. Like,
yeah.
I'm going to give people money all of the time, and then I'm not going to dictate what the can and can't spend it on. Like, who the fuck do I think I am to do that? Do you know what I mean? But more importantly, if I'm going to give them anything, give them me time.
Yeah,
You know,
man.
well, people look at me like I'm fucking mental. You'll have a homeless guy sat in Durham with fucking me sat next to him on the floor, not standing up, looking fucking down. I'm sat beside him. He's having a fag. I'm having a vape, and I'm going, "What's your name, brother? Like, what's your fucking story? How you ended up fucking here?" Do you know what I mean? And like, and
Yeah, man.
and give them my time and interest to hear who this person is, because their stories, if you care enough, any daft fuck I can give a quid. Anyone can go into Greg's and buy a sandwich. That's nice. It is nice that. Do that. Keep doing it. Give them money, man. Give them money, right? Give them money. Give them money and food. But give them your time. Because when you ask...
Do you know what was crazy? All I could think about then was, don't give them fucking money. I mean, no, don't give them pasties. Pasties are worse than fucking drugs.
Well, sad, absolutely. And keep the pasties for yourself. But you know what, brother? For me, when you ask these people, like, who are you? What's your story? How have you fucking ended up here? Be prepared, man. Be prepared to be fucking humbled. Do you know what I mean? Be prepared to be filled with fucking gratitude that your life is not like theirs. Do you know what I mean? And be prepared that, like, none of it's a choice. Nobody fucking chooses that. Like, you know, when I was 9-year-old, I did not choose to be raped by a priest. Do you know what I mean? When I was fucking 9-year-old, I did not choose to be beaten in junior schools with rulers on me fucking hands. Like when I was in senior school, I did not choose to fucking have the hands whacked off me by adults with fucking straps that would hit you as hard as a fucking god. Like, I didn't choose that. I didn't choose to have my mental health destroyed. I didn't fucking choose that. And long before I ever took a drink or a drug, I was broken with trauma. Do you know what I mean? So when I used substances for the first time, drugs weren't the problem. They were the absolute solution. Because I went from a fucking very scared, vulnerable young boy who, you know, it's not even sexual abuse. I was raped. Right? So you're going to go and judge these people, are you? You're going to judge them without even knowing their fucking backstory, you know? And that's where, when it comes back to that, United Nations Office of Drugs and Crime Court, like in like 10 or 15% of people who use drugs globally in a way which might be deemed as problematic are medicating pain and trauma. They're trying to escape pain and fucking trauma and being hurt. Do you know what I mean? And I think if we start to think about people impacted by addiction as not a product of the drug that they take, but like Dr. Gabor Mate talks about what happened where you can't bear to be present in your own life. Like where you have to escape from your own life. Why is your life so bad that you feel the need that being outside in a fucking cold alleyway, which is covered in human shit and piss, and you're jacking up heroin, that life is better than you being you. Do you know what I mean? Where it's, and you know what, brother? Like for me, that's why, like, that's why I love what I do, man, because it's a fucking privilege and honor to be around these people and do those things for them, what you did for me, which is create climates for fucking where they can be really honest and they can talk about their drug use, and I don't try and navigate them away from not doing it. I just want them to be safe, man. Do you know what I mean? I just want them to be safe. And I also want people to know that, like, fucking, you know, success isn't defined by whether a person drinks or uses drugs. You know, people often go, oh, George is such an inspiration. Well, I am, but that's it.
That's why you're gorgeous, George.
Yeah, man. But like, you know, like, you know, I had great times using drugs, me, fucking great times. Going to raves nationally, dancing with me, putting the light gloves on, and I had some really special times until I didn't. But then I was using substances very differently from other people were using substances. Like people would go and get high on a weekend to get their shit together. Monday they'd be back to work. Whereas for me, I was battling and tackling like low self-esteem, low self-worth, like fucking like real embedded trauma because of those experiences that happened to me. So like using amphetamines, for instance, speed, it took me from looking at knowing everyone by the shoes at the wall because I couldn't look them in the eyes, taking a bit of amphetamines, then I had confidence. I could look you in the eyes. I could talk to the girls. They showed an interest in me. Do you know what I mean? So maybe it's like amphetamine is the solution, not the problem. So then you start taking amphetamine every day because you feel good when you're using it, but you feel lousy when you're fucking not. And then before you know where you are, you've been using it for a number of years and there's people shouting on you and there's nobody there and you have psychosis and you're starting then to fucking take amphetamines because you want to be high, and then drinking copious amounts of fucking alcohol to bring you down. Then you start taking benzos, then you end up like that guy outside of the pub, and then the networks of people who you used to be around and using drugs recreationally, that kind of diminishes in some ways. Do you know what I mean? Because they're getting on with their lives and all the rest of it, and then you start to kind of get involved in more risky drug taking and different. Not for all people, Andy, but this was for me. You know, kind of my use changed and started using like opioids and kind of like other drugs where I ended up becoming a frequent flyer because of overdoses and that thing there, naloxone, that saved my life on countless occasions. And you started getting known to the police, then you end up in the criminal justice system, then you're in prisons, and then you're full of self-loathing, you're cutting your fucking own face open with razor blades, and you're fucking running it through your fucking chest because you fucking hate who you've become, man, and you just end up a broken mess. And for me, that was where my journey was, you know, fucking year 2000, stitches in my wrists, I'd been taken away, I'd been stabbed in my face, I'd been stabbed in my fucking back, literally. I was in thousands of pounds worth of fucking drug debt, and I didn't want to be alive, and ended up taking an intentional overdose, and cut my wrists, and my dad found us, and ended up back in hospital, and like woke up in hospital, not happy to be alive, woke up in hospital, sick of me fucking life, because I knew that journey, man, that journey was just round and round and round and round and round. And I ended up on a locked psychiatric unit, and then went from there into a residential rehabilitation centre in the year 2000. And I wasn't drinking and I wasn't using, but I was still a fucking mess. Do you know what I mean? And if alcohol and drugs are the only problems we have, why, when we stop using them, are we still a fucking mess? And for me, it was like I had all of that unresolved shit that I hadn't dealt with through my childhood. Do you know what I mean? And I just ended up going on a journey, went and did a fucking basic counselling course. I think everybody passes that probably. Do you know what I mean? But I remember getting a certificate to say this is to certify that George Charlton has completed a basic counselling course, and I remember getting that because I haven't got any GCSEs or fuck all me. I remember
They don't mean fuck all anyway, do they?
I remember like fucking getting that certificate, and in that moment thinking fucking, well, two things. One, it was the first thing in my life I'd ever started and finished. And then two, the feeling I got when I walked up to get that certificate just in the class. Do you know what I mean? Like I got goosebumps everywhere. I was like, fucking hell, man.
I got goosebumps now.
Yeah, man, that feeling of like pride, so bad, brother. That feeling of like pride and achievement. And you know what? Typically my brain focused on drugs going, ooh, that felt a bit like a line of cocaine, that. Like, because I was high on life, I'd experienced, like, I thought, fucking, what's that feeling? Do you know what I mean? Like, what's that feeling of nothing? Do you know what I mean? But it wasn't of nothing. It was like kind of fucking, I'm sure Jordan Peterson's got a quote like fucking, the thing you desire most lies in on the other side of the fucking cave that you're frightened to go in. He probably says it a lot more eloquent like than that.
I can't imagine Jordan Peterson saying fucking.
Yeah, it's like there's dragons in that cave, but if you go through that cave and you fight the dragons on the other side of the cave, it's the fucking thing that you want the most. Do you know what I mean? And I kind of think that's what I started to get, was like that idea of Susan Jeffers talks about, feel the fear and do it anyway. Like it took a lot for me to fucking sign up on that course. I'd never done any adult education. My head was in fucking bits. I'd never used drugs for a year. I was still in rehab, but I was still full of self-doubt, self-loathing, didn't believe in myself, imposter syndrome, analysis paralysis, like fucking that screaming, you know. I'm sure we identified it in one of my therapy sessions that I've got three dominant subpersonalities. I've got the Sergeant Major, which shouts at us all the time, going, you're fucking hopeless, you're useless, you're going to get found out, you can't do it, you're going to fail. Then I've got this other one, which is called the Whirlwind, and he goes, don't worry about it, Sergeant Major, I'll fucking sort it. So he's probably the side of people that people see most, that flighty side of me. The whirlwind's running around trying to keep the Sergeant Major from fucking shouting. Do you know what I mean? Because shouting's scary as fuck for me. Do you know what I mean? Like fucking don't like it. And then the third subpersonality isn't a dominant one. He's called Mr. Vulnerable, and he's probably my real self, but he never gets heard that much because it's not that's fucking shouting. So
is he the one looking down at the shoes?
Who, Mr. Vulnerable, aye?
Yeah.
Yeah, totally, man. So I guess for me, like, I listened to Mr. Vulnerable and went and done that course and then passed it. So I thought, well, there's only one thing to do, and that's to do another course, isn't it? So then I did a level 2 and then a level 3 postgraduate diploma, went and got a degree, and then stayed on went to Durham University and got a master's and shit like that, and kind of
It sounds like you had a new drug you were getting addicted to.
high education. And I think, and for me, that's kind of like one of the key tenets of the work that I do with people who are impacted by addiction, right? Is that, like, there's more to stopping using than stopping using. Do you know what I mean? So that idea of instilling, like, creating projects which are built around meaning, purpose, and hope and empowerment. Do you know, like,
Yeah.
that's really, really important. So we can give people pharmacological interventions to help them to medicate, whether that's like heroin, like methadone, or Subutex, or injectable buprenorphine or something. That's going to help a person to get some stability in their lives, to not be buying those toxic drugs which are in the drug supply system, not having to be involved in acquisitive crime. Do you know what I mean? We can give
Yeah.
stability and quell the desire for them to use. However, they're left with a fucking gaping hole then, and then like society again, though, fucking doesn't make it easy, does it? Like, it's like, what, you've been using drugs for the last 10 years? I'm not going to give you a fucking job, trustworthy and all that. Like, how, man? Like, everybody deserves a second chance, a third chance, a 10th chance, So, like, for me, like, developing the peer-to-peer naloxone programs, the guys and girls who use drugs, going out into the community and training and supporting their peers and showing people how to use it, and not just giving that to people who use drugs, but giving it to members of the general public, to Costa Copy staff, to fucking anybody, right? It becomes like a really beautiful thing for those people, like they go up to someone and they'll say, maybe it's to a member of the general public, "Excuse me, can I take like 2 minutes of your time to talk to you a little bit about naloxone? My name's George and I'm from the Naloxone Advocates Plymouth, or I'm from Torbay Naloxone Tribe, or I'm from the Harm Reduction Union, and they've got the hoodies and the t-shirts and the lanyards on. Can I talk to you about this?" And somebody says, "Yeah." And then they do this impeccable demonstration on the streets of how to use the substance and spot the signs and symptoms of an overdose. And then they'll physically say, "Thank you for just giving us your time. I really appreciate it. There's a naloxone kit. And if you ever have to use it, have the confidence to use it." And then
Wow.
the member of the public goes like, "I think what you're doing is really, really special. And you should be really, really proud of yourself."
Fuck, man.
You see that there, brother? Like that. See that? The power in that. The good touch. The power, because for these lads and lasses, and for me, all you fucking told us all our lives is we're worth nothing, and we'll never be good at anything, and we should lock you up, and we should throw away the key, and you're just a daft smackhead, and your life's not fucking worth anything, and you'd be better off fucking dead.
Great. So my fucking eyes are watered again, because you've just made me realise you were the tap on my shoulder.
Yeah.
That, you know what I mean? Bringing that back to where we started today, when someone taps you on the shoulder to say you're doing the good thing, you're doing the right thing, that's the thing, man. That's where I love what you do, because I've seen, I don't see it. And mate, I wasn't going to ask you this on the podcast, but I really want to know how I can get involved in, like, I want to know how we can do the right thing by these people in the street, because I want, as a dad and as a human being, I want to let my clients know, my kids know, my wife know, even my fucking dogs. Do you know what I mean? Like, to know that, because, this is the classic scenario, right? You walk down the street, your dog says hello to the guy sitting at the side of the street. No other fucking does. And I always trust my dogs.
Well, then in that case, like, then stop, go and say hello.
Yeah, exactly.
Good for you.
Yeah.
You, everybody,
Yeah.
go and say hello and go and shake the hand. Oh, shake the grubby hand. Oh my God. No, shake the fucking hand and say, "My name's Andy. It's really nice to meet you. Can I get you a sandwich? Do you need a couple of quid? Do you mind if I fucking sit down with you and have a bit of crack with you?" Not that, of course, that's probably a bit inappropriate.
Yeah.
You know,
Maybe
and-
don't start doing crack just because you met someone off the street.
and you know what? And give somebody your time. Be mindful. Obviously, if somebody's smashed out their fucking heads, do you know what I mean? You've got to be a
Yeah,
bit.
of course.
You've got to be a bit mindful around.
Self-aware and yeah.
Yeah, but you know, a lot of these lads and lasses who we sitting there, they're not causing any trouble. They're
No.
not kicking off. Do you know what I mean? And go and find out who the fuck they are, man. Find out who they are and show some love and some humanity and some compassion and stop calling people fucking addicts and alcoholics. All yous. Yeah.
Yeah.
Stop, man. Who the fuck do you think yous are to label somebody like that? You're not qualified.
Yeah.
We're not alcoholics. We're not addicts. We're people impacted by addiction. We're people impacted by trauma. We're people with alcohol problems. We're people who experience mental health problems. We're fucking people. Like, look in the whites of their eyes are the same as yours and mine. Like, show some fucking respect, man. Like, do what you're doing, Andy. Like, I was in Scotland a little while back with Madison, and we're delivering some training at Scottish families in the middle of Sauchiehole Street. I can't say the street name, that's what it's called, though. Sauchiehole, Edinburgh. And we'd literally, me and Maddie, it just came out at this time. She's 16 now, Madison. At this time, she must have been, what, I don't know, fucking 12, something like that. We come out of the shop, me and her, and on the other side of the road, there was a lass who was asking for some support financially, begging, whatever, right? And Madison said, "Dad, can I have £1?" And I said, "What do you want £1 for?" She said, "Can I just have £1?" I said, "No problem." So I give her £1. And she literally, there must have been 100 yards between where I was standing on one side of the street to where the girl was on the other. And she didn't tell us where she was going. She just took the £1 and off she went. And I just watched her, and she got to the other side of the street, and she didn't just chuck the £1 in and walked away. She put the £1 in the cup. And then I seen this. And then the girl who was homeless, I seen this. Smiles on her face. And I watched a 12-year-old girl conversing with somebody who was clearly somebody impacted by addiction, have a conversation, and then Maddie shake her hand and come walking back across the street.
There's people in our lives that walk into our lives, and I can guarantee you now that lady on the street will never forget Madison.
Yeah. And nor will Madison forget her. You see, like, my girls, right? Like, Madison's 16 now. If you said to Madison, like, "What do you do with your dad?" She'd say, "Well, we go playing spotting." And because we do a lot of fucking that stuff. Maddie's got a bit of autism. We go, like, we do loads of shit together. I love being around her. But if you were to say, "What do you do with regards to drugs?" She would say, "Well, I'm a young drugs law ambassador." That's what she would say. And what she does is she comes with me to train people up how to use naloxone, and she wears a "Nice People Take Drugs" t-shirt and a "Naloxone Saves Lives" t-shirt. We went off to I was asked to go into the Isle of Arran last year, the year before, to work with the Arran Youth Foundation over there. I kind of said, "Madison, come across." We're like, "No bother." I've got like photographs of Madison with like 30 kids, like a bit younger than her and older than her at the time, and she's doing naloxone demonstrations, and she's talking about the values of kindness and love and humanity and compassion, and recognizing that, like, that what happens to them people can happen to fucking any of us, you know. And I think, like,
Yeah.
and for me, if my kids are going to use drugs, you know, I've created environments where the fucking first thing they're going to do is they're going to come and talk to me about it. They're not going to use and then come and talk to me. They're going to go thinking about using some drugs, and I'm going to go, "Let's sit down and talk about it." Do you know what I mean? Let's sit down and talk about it, because if you're going to do it, you're going to do it. And also, you got a lot of fucking parents that'll be buying the 15-year-old kids fucking ciders and stuff to go to parties with. Well, remember, C2H fucking 504. Kill it.
C2H 504.
It's a fucking killer. So stop being so fucking hypocritical and buying your kids fucking copper bergs to go to parties. "Oh, well, they're almost 16 now." Do you know what I mean? Right? Well, and then going mad if they fucking smoke a bit of hash. Like, how many people died, Andy? Quiz time. How many people died from smoking cannabis in the UK last year?
Ooh, I don't know. One?
None. No one.
George, I've got one question before we finish, because I'm very conscious of, one, you've got more people to save, or actually not save, I don't like that word, but you've got more people to influence. And
The love, brother. I've got more people to love.
more love.
Yeah.
The question I'm going to ask you is, in America, they've legalized cannabis in lots of states.
Yeah.
Do you think that's a good thing? Do you think that's a positive thing looking forward? Because I've got my personal view on it is I think it's fucking brilliant.
Yeah. Is that the question?
That's the question.
Yeah, well, do you know what it is? I absolutely right. So, like, surely when it comes to the law, right, things that become illegal around drugs should be weighted against the evidence which is attached to them. So if somebody's using a substance which is a plant, right, and it's killing nobody, right, nobody, it's not making people violent, it's making people a bit podgier because we get the munchies, right, not making people attack the police and all the rest of it, when we have to really question, like, kind of, why is it illegal? Do you know what I mean? Why is it illegal?
Mhm.
I think the thing for me is, like, I know in Colorado and other places, people were concerned that if you regulate and legalize drugs, more people are going to use them. That hasn't been true of the cannabis debate. Do you know what I mean? Potentially, some other people may choose to use different drugs because people want an alternative to alcohol in some cases. You know, Teesside Cannabis Club, my mate Michael Fisher, great guest for your podcast, actually. Fucking, I'll hook you up with Michael. He's brilliant. You'll love him, right? So, very quickly, Michael created this pseudonym many years ago, right? Where, in fact, Michael Fisher's not even his fucking real name, to be fair. So, he created a Facebook account, and basically, he was a cannabis user himself, and he was using for kind of like medical purposes. He used to create these little events on social media, and hence why he didn't use his real name. And then people used to get together in certain parts of Middlesbrough and used to smoke a few joints outside. You know what I mean? A bit of a clubby type thing, right? And then basically what he's ended up doing is saying, "Oh well, fuck the law, right? Fuck the law. I'm just going to buy a shop. I'm going to call it Teesside Cannabis Club. I'm not going to hide it. I'm going to put a big, massive fucking sticker with my face smoking a fucking joint on it. Do you know what I mean? And I'm going to encourage people to come in and have a cannabis social club movement where I'm able to sell cannabis, even though it's illegal in this country to sell it the way he's doing it in some ways. I'm going to be completely transparent. Nobody's allowed to smoke tobacco on the premises. Nobody can fucking get access to alcohol on the premises at all. Do you know what I mean? Right? And I'm going to ask people to start coming forward. And he's got this amazing fucking cannabis club. Like, yeah, readers, if you just Google like Teesside Cannabis Club or YouTube Teesside Cannabis Club, he's known, like, he's amazing, right? Lots of the lads and lasses who go in there, who I'll talk to, what they say is that, like, they used to use like amphetamines and ecstasy and they were mad for the fucking drink and all the rest of it, and they're getting themselves into loads of trouble. Do you know what I mean? And then since the cannabis clubs came around, they go into the cannabis club and they smoke a few joints and they sit and socialize, and they've got amazing bands. Get yourself down there. They've got amazing like guest singers and artists who come along and singing songs. And then these lads and lasses will go home. What they're saying is, we're not taking amphetamines anymore. We're not using ecstasy anymore. We don't drink alcohol anymore. We're not getting into trouble anymore. Do you know what I mean? So whilst the argument is always that if we do something like legalize and regulate, it's going to create further problems, we don't look at the harm reduction benefits of, can cannabis be really effective in helping people around a range of different things? So very interestingly for me, I've got rheumatoid arthritis. Got it during COVID time. I didn't get it during COVID time. It sounds like it struck, but I became aware of it then. And I went and seen the NHS, and then I got obviously a diagnosis, and then I ended up seeing specialists. Then they started giving me drugs called methotrexate. I used to take these pharmacological interventions from the NHS, and it used to make me sick. It was like, it really dulled me flame. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Eased the pains and that I had, but I used to be a keen golfer. I used to really enjoy doing that stuff, but I had to stop because I couldn't hit the golf ball without it hurting my hands. I couldn't grip properly or anything else. And I was kind of destined to think that this methotrexate, and then every 4 weeks you have to go and see a specialist because they use it in chemotherapy. So it's not the safest of drugs. And then all of a sudden I thought, oh, I wonder, like, fucking what's the crack with medical cannabis? So I started doing a little bit of research, a bit of digging around, and then found a company in the UK that do medical cannabis. Had a consultation with one of their GPs. Rheumatoid arthritis was something that they treated. And fortunately, I'm in the privileged position that I don't have to buy cannabis illegally. So I get a prescription for medical cannabis, which is completely legal, comes from Sunderland, from a firm called Curaleaf. Do you know what I mean? And my drug dealer is called DPD. Do you know what I mean? So they bring the drugs to the door, right? And I often ask the guy, I say, do you know what's in here? He goes, well, no. I say, well, you're my drug dealer. I go, what are you talking about? I say, that CD that's on the box. I said, well, that's controlled drugs. So then I open the box up, and inside, when I open the packet, there's weed, flower, bud, plant medicine. Do you know what I mean? And I take a bit of that plant medicine and I put it in a pipe and I smoke it in a pipe only on an evening, not during the day. And I don't take methotrexate anymore. And yesterday I was playing golf with Madison and I don't have any pain. Do you know what I mean? And all of that of having a little pipe being transformational. Do you know what I mean? So I think the thing for me is that like we shouldn't always be thinking about like we're conditioned to think drugs, bad, problems, boom. People are always going to have problems with drugs. People are always going to have problems with alcohol. But people who do have problems with alcohol and drugs, right? They're not the norm.
Yeah.
More people use illegal drugs and don't end up where I did than people who end up where I did. More people use alcohol in a way which is not harmful to them, but we still have a cohort that have. For those people who use drugs recreationally and those people who use alcohol recreationally, they're okay, man. For those people who are using alcohol problematically, those people who are using drugs in a problematic way, our current response to those people is fucking perverse and it's disgusting. And we're all fucking guilty of looking down on these people, on the underclass, right?
Yeah.
Saying, make their life tougher, put them in a prison system and chuck away the key. Do you know how to show them fucking tough love? These people need love, compassion, empathy, support. Do you know what I mean? Right. And you know what? Like, that's got to be at the core of everything that we're doing around this group. And then I'll just leave you with this one, right? So there was an MP called Victoria Aitkins, right? Vicky Aikens. She had the role in the cabinet for the Conservatives, right? She was the drugs minister, right? So she was responsible for writing the drug strategy, right? And how to tackle it. Bearing in mind, because I've got it written here, we spend 1.4 billion in this country, right, on enforcing drug laws and criminalising people who use drugs. 1.4 billion, right? We spend how much is it? It's something like six. Where is it? 500 million, I think, on treatment and support. So we're investing more money on punishment than we are on fixing the problem, right? So when Victoria Aitkins was in the Houses of Commons and they were having discussions around cannabis, right, she had to recuse herself. So the drugs minister, the Conservative in the government at the time, their drugs minister had to leave the Houses of Commons when they were having conversations around cannabis because her husband, right, was a major shareholder in the firm that sends me my cannabis. Right. So then here's another name that you'll know. Theresa May.
Yep.
Terry May, the old Prime Minister. Her husband was also a major shareholder in Jazz Pharmaceuticals. Well, it wasn't Jazz Pharmaceuticals at the time. Jazz Pharmaceuticals bought it, right? He was also a shareholder in this pharmaceutical company that makes cannabis. Do you know what I mean? So whilst the Conservatives at the time are creating policies and strategies which criminalise and hurt people for their drug use, the drugs minister was a conflict of interest because her fucking fella was making fucking tens of thousands.
Wow.
Theresa May's husband, tens of thousands of pounds of it, and we go mental about it. You know, Britain is the biggest exporter of cannabis to the rest of the medical cannabis to the rest of the world. Like we ship tons of it every year from Kent to the rest of the world. But if you're little Joe Bloggs who lives next door, who's growing a little plant for himself, and we catch you with it, you're going to get in the shit. But if you're a Labour peer or a Conservative peer, or you're quite affluent, then you're going to become shareholders in these and make millions. It's all fucking madness. So it just brings me to think that like, I've only got a short period of time on this planet. We all have. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
But I kind of know for me, I'm going to do the best that I possibly can for the people who are hurt and in pain in our communities to make their lives fucking better. And if at the end of it, when it all comes to rest, if my legacy's been that I've done my best for other people to humanize people who use drugs, and I've instilled some values in my children which fucking let them know that nice people take drugs and that people who use drugs are not the fucking enemy, then I can say for me, that's a fucking life well lived. And that's it, brother. That's it, man.
I love that, man. Thank you so much, George. You know that I'm absolute super fan of everything you do, because I just believe that more people need to understand everything that we've been talking about today. And I think, when you just, when you say about, showing people love, I just think that's just such a beautiful thing. And yeah. So George, how do people, if someone wanted to know a little bit more about like the world of like naloxone and like what you do, is there a way that people could kind of find out a bit more about it?
Yeah, man, absolutely. So you can come and follow me on my socials, George Charlton Training and Consultancy Services on Twitter. We'll chuck the links in the bio somewhere. I'm at GBMC73 on Twitter, and again, just search for George Charlton on LinkedIn. You'll fucking find me. You'll find me.
Amazing. I'll put the links in the bio as well, man.
Sweet, man. And just like, you know what, like fucking keep watching this fella because he's a fucking absolute legend. And thank you for having us. And sorry about Naloxone Man.
And that wraps up today's episode of the Coffee, Chaos and Confidence podcast with me, Coach Casey. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, please make sure you like and subscribe. It helps other listeners find the show. Also, go and check out the show notes to learn more about my incredible guests. Until next time, make sure you chase your dreams without limitations.